Hello, welcome back to OConnor Racing for part 2 of our 1979 YZ250 build. We're not going to be putting this engine together here, but I'm just kind of going through some of the things that we did for this gentleman out in Washington State. We went ahead and we put the sleeve in. If you look real close, you see that pin. We do this on all of our sleeves. That's just an insurance policy because I like to sleep at night. We guarantee these sleeves for life. If that sleeve ever turns, we warranty it. I mean, if it comes right down to buying you a cylinder, I'll do it. We've never had to do it in 30 years, but it's just an insurance policy. We like to put that pin in case you overheat or whatever. That sleeve can't turn. It's just bad news, or lift or drop. So, we're pretty careful doing the machine work and dropping everything. This actually, we lapped the head on it, lapped the sealing surface, put the studs back in it, drop the sleeve in. Once you drop the sleeve in, you have to bore it. Sleeves are about 30 thousandths smaller than the piston size, the stock piston size, so we had to go ahead and bore it. We honed it, chamfered all the ports, and everything in here is lined up really nice. It's a good looking job. No porting involved on this. We media blasted this cylinder per the customer request, and I'm ready to take this thing. I'm going to shoot it down with WD-40 on the outside. On the inside, I'm going to lubricate it with quality 2-stroke oil, Maximus Super M. I use that on everything, either that or Motul, and just lube it up, throw it in a bag, and get this thing ready to ship. Next, we'll show you how we're going to prep his cases. This is one half of the cases. This is the one we actually got repaired, and I did go in there and clean this up quite a bit. It's going to show, and these vintage guys, a lot of these guys don't even run these bikes. I don't think that's going to be the case with this gentleman, but a lot of this stuff just goes to shows, so you want it to look halfway decent. So we took it down on the outside here. He's going to paint all of this. I don't think you'll ever be able to see that. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to lap the cases, and one thing I like to do is I just take, I get this, I think I got this at Advanced Auto Parts, a little bit of brake parts cleaner, and I shoot it on a little brass tip brush, and before I take it to lap it, I just scrub this. What that's going to do, that's going to get all this case bond out of here, and just keep doing that until you get it clean. And I'll do both these cases, and the next thing we're going to do is lap them. I went ahead and removed all the case bond with the brush and the brake cleaner. The next thing I'm going to do, I like this stuff right here. It's Tap Magic. I get this from MSC. You can get it from any machine house. And I just go along and I'm going to put a drop in these holes. And what I'm concerned with here, especially with the age, we do this on everything, but many assemblies, I'm sure this has been taken apart at least a half a dozen times throughout its life. And I'm concerned about the case sealer getting inside of these holes. I don't really feel it, but it's a good idea. I mean, to go in here with a tap. I'm going to do this by hand. You have to be careful. You don't want to cross thread it. These threads are 6mm by 1. And what we're trying to do is go in there and just ensure that none of the case bond has gotten in the bottom of the holes, which will actually prevent you, especially on something this old, will prevent you from getting that screw down all the way torqued in. You get a false torque reading, and it's a good idea to clean the threads out anyway, so that's what we're going to do next. This next case is the one that the bolts go through. So what I like to do with these is I measured this hole. It mics out in standard measurements 248, and we got a 248 drill. So what I do is I take the same piece and I just run this drill into these holes, and what I'm trying to do is just make sure there's no case bond in there. The last thing you want to do, or the last thing I want my customer to do when he's putting this together, is get a straight piece of case bond that's in here, and technically if he puts his bolt in, that hardened piece can pop out, come in here, and it's going to make a vacuum leak. So that's what we did to prep this case, and this is going over to be lapped next. I went ahead and lapped both cases, and nice and flat on both sides, even the welded one. I mean, very minimal lapping to get this stuff done. And I got to remind you, whenever you're lapping cases, you don't want to overdo it. Just get them till they're flat, and you can see little crosshatch patterns on them, and that's what you're looking for. The The other thing I did, and I did this off camera, is I matched the cases to the cylinder. The customer wanted that, so we went ahead and did that. He had a pretty severe crankshaft failure in this, so I went on the inside of the crankcase here and just cleaned out a bunch of burrs and made sure that nothing's going to smack into the crankshaft. And next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and do the final clean. Well, as ridiculous as this looks or may sound, this actually works really, really well. One thing that I am adamant about is I don't spend any money that I don't have to in here, and my philosophy is the less I have to spend to do these jobs and do them correctly, the less money I have to charge my customers. This is an old dishwasher. This was given to me, and this works outstanding. What I do is I put the cases in, and I sprayed them with some solvent. Actually, I use something called Purple Power. It's a degreaser, and I'm going to put some Cascade in this dishwasher, and I'm going to turn it on. When these cases come out, they're going to be almost completely clean. The next step at this point is to go ahead and shoot some brake cleaner on them, blow out all the holes, blow out the bearings again. One thing I will caution you on, if you're going to use a dishwasher or something like this with water and you have bearings in these cases, that's fine. But you have to be all over this. When this dishwasher stops, don't let it go through the heat cycle. As soon as it's done with the rinse cycle, take them out and load those bearings with oil or they'll rust on you. And this works fine for us in here. We're actually working on some ultrasonic cleaning equipment, but until that happens, this is how we've been doing it for a long time, and it works good, and it's a good shortcut and saves me a bunch of time. The cylinder head had several divots in it from what I'm just going to imagine as multiple explosions throughout its life between crank bearings and pistons coming up in it. Had a lot of little shots in it, and what that's going to do is that's going to create detonation. I mean, if it's a sharp imprint, it's going to make a hot spot. So we got rid of all of that. I actually, because this is not on center, I did this by hand and came out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. Knocked all of the burrs out and then went ahead and lapped the cylinder head. The cylinder head's been media blasted, bag it and tag it, and this is on its way back to Seattle. While I'm waiting for my cases to get washed, we went ahead and we did the mod on the clutch basket. These older bikes, all bikes, but really when you get into something this old, this is probably a very hard part to find, and even if you do find it used, it's not going to be in usable condition. So if you've seen a lot of my videos, I mean, we showed you how to file this, and we actually just came in with a machine that does this automatically, and I can actually hold 1/1000ths by hand on this machine. So what we did is instead of hand filing it, we used, it's called a butterfly. It's a tool maker machine, and we'll show it to you some other time, but I used the butterfly and I came along and took all the grooves out. What these grooves are going to do is they're going to make your clutch very, very sluggish. It's going to stick, it's going to not engage all the way, so we knocked all of this down, and then we went ahead and we laid this on our granite plate with a height gauge, scribed the line, and how close you can see that, and then scribed lines this way, and then we put additional oiling holes in the outer clutch basket. So that's what we did to the clutch basket on a 1979 YZ250. Here's some of the other clutch components. The pressure plate is fine. What we checked for here is just make sure it's flat, and that's in good shape. What we did on the inner basket, and I don't know how good you can see this, but we did drilled a series of holes. It's pretty common. I do this on a lot of the newer motocross bikes, and what that's going to do, that's going to aid in lubrication of the clutch, and that's pretty advantageous on something like this. It's that old. Sooner or later you're not going to be able to get a clutch, so we want to keep the clutch plates in good shape, and this will increase your clutch plate life ×3. Easy mod to do. Here's a clutch cover. No damage on this. Again, went ahead and media blasted it per the customer requirement. We're going to lap this side of it. One thing, and I'm sure a lot of you guys know this, but in case you don't, I'll probably save your life right here. This is made out of magnesium. See it right here? Don't ever try to weld this stuff. You'll have a fire that you'll never forget as long as you live. So, make sure whenever you're going to try to weld this, or if you're taking it somewhere, they know about it. But, a lot of guys on their own, and a lot of videos, we're trying to teach you guys some stuff. But anytime you see anything that says magnesium on it, never try to weld that. That thing will explode in your face. If you remember from part 1 on this YZ build, we had to scale this down from a 25 millimeter pin to a 24 millimeter pin. So we made the bushings, you see that on part 1, and then they TIG welded in, thanks to my good friend Tarmo. He looks like he did a pretty good job. Tarmo's a pretty smart boy. And what we're going to do next is we're going to check the inside diameter to make sure we didn't get any distortion from the TIG welding. I don't think that we're going to. And if we have to, we're going to pin hone them and then put this crankshaft together. We did the final clean on the cases. They're all set. Actually, we sweat the bearings in. I have an oven that I can, heat these things up to put the bearings in. We chose not to do that for the simple reason that there's so many other bearings in this. They'll start dropping out when you heat them up. So we just sweat these things in and flip them around. Made a tool, put the seals in. These things are ready to go back. Next step is to do the crankshaft. We got our crankshaft assembled. Took it to the bench centers. It's pretty good. It's within a half thousandths all the way around. We're not going to get it any closer than that. As I mentioned earlier, the pin is 1 millimeter shorter than the original pin, so we're just going to go ahead and put a couple of tacks on this pin. And I got my very good friend Tarmo over here, and he's gonna put a couple of little tacks on this crankshaft.
Give it some dice.
Alright, so Tarmo went in there and he stuck the crank pin, and make sure, again, if you watched all of these videos, that pin was 1 millimeter shorter, so we split the difference, 20 thousandths each side. And I just, I got to sleep at night. I want to make sure nothing happens here, so we went ahead and we welded the crank pin. Good job by Tarmo. This is our YZ250 1979 build, and thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. I'd just like to thank Tarmo for doing all of the welding, Dave Fontaine for doing a bunch of the grunt work, and Hank Graff for a lot of the advice, and especially would like to thank Paul from Seattle, Washington for having the common sense to send this kind of stuff to the best shop in the country.